odds makers do not agree with me, or for that matter, Kamaru Usman, because we're saying the same thing. Talking about Rountree, guys. Rountree, I'm going to call him a 4-1 underdog to Khalil. Apologize, to the champion Pereira. You got a plus 500, you got a minus 380. I'm just going to tell you he's a 4-1 spread. Okay, but let's use that number 4-1. 3-1 is what the odds were the night that Charles Oliveira took on Islam Makhachev. And if you'll recall, so many people think that was a title fight, or the night Islam took Charles's belt away. It was actually a vacated title. But Charles was a 3-1. Now, they tried to remake that match after what we had seen, which wasn't close, it wasn't competitive, and I'm only sharing that because when they tried to make the rematch and even signed it, and my partners DraftKings put out a line favoring Islam 3-1. It was 3-1 the first time. It was 3-1 in the mythical second time. Now, you got Khalil 4-1. So DraftKings believes that Charles was more likely to beat Islam than Khalil is to beat Pereira. That's interesting. And you want to know why that's interesting? Because of all the different ways that Charles had to beat Islam, which was all of them. A decision, you could see that, no problem. Submission, you could see that, no problem. Catch him and knock him out. Anybody that fights in 4-ounce gloves and anything can happen. You hear all these expressions because they're true. You could see that, no problem. It's not like that in this fight. I don't think that you could see, and let's start with Pereira, winning any other way than finish, using strikes. Do you disagree with that? Isn't that at least the most likely if we're talking numbers, right? Everything's a broad stroke. We don't know. But isn't that most likely how you would see it? I don't think any of you believe he's going to go out and submit him or find a rear naked choke or an armbar off of his back. I wouldn't be stunned if we went over to DraftKings and looked at the prop bets and that wasn't even an option because quite literally nobody bet it. Any disagreement? Okay. But how would Khalil win? I do acknowledge that Khalil has one way to win. He's got to knock Pereira out. So now we got two guys playing the same game, and we have a good established reason for believing that one guy is better at playing that game. But from the beginning of time, when you have somebody break down a fight, they'll always go, well, it's 4-ounce gloves and anything can happen. Like, it's almost like they're impossible to give an analysis without hedging somewhere in that direction. But that's not really what we've got here. For sure, that's going to happen. But to who? And I just bring that to you, 4-1. Wow. I could see why Pereira would be the favorite. I would expect Pereira to be the favorite. Pereira is the greatest. Pereira is well known. Khalil Rountree is unknown. Can we agree? Can we agree that we're ultimately going popularity? Because if you wanted to look at Pereira's last 5 fights and juxtapose that record against Khalil's last 5 fights, if you're Team Pereira, you're not going to like that number. In your mind, where Khalil has absolutely no chance. Well, over the past 2.5 years, win for win, fight for fight. One's taking on champions, the other's taking on former number 1 contenders. I mean, it wasn't as though it was an easy schedule. In the last 5 for the last 5, one of them went and oh. And I'm only suggesting that for you. Khalil is not a better fighter than Alex Pereira. Now, how would we define that? Like, what would your litmus test be? And for me, it's not championships. It's not Jordan's got 6 rings and LeBron has 4. It's not. Like the real question, if you were to really answer that honestly, right? DraftKings has the best practical method of doing that, which is you part with your money. And what I'm going to say, of course, is mythical, but you got a magic wand, and you can give your son one of those 2 guys' skills, Pereira or Rountree, and then your son is going to have to get in the ring and fight the other one. I think that's where you would really be forced to break things down and go, okay, here's who I think is better. And Pereira is certainly unique. He's got a unique power. His style is not overly dynamic. Most of the guys that have come and set the world on fire with their stand-up abilities, where we all stand back and go, wow, he's the best. Anderson Silva comes to mind. Roy Jones comes to mind. Floyd comes to mind. Demetrius Johnson comes to mind. But they have something. They're dynamic. they are just as likely to jump in the air, spin around, and kick you in the mouth as they are to stand on one foot and do it straight on, throw that shot to your mouth. They're very, very dynamic guys. Pereira is not that. Pereira is very straight, very by the books. It's called running the numbers. If you're in a gym, you got a coach, he's holding the focus mitts, doing the pads with you, you're running the numbers. That's how Pereira fights. It's a 1-2-5. It's a 10-3, back to a 10. And it works, and he doesn't miss. And as tough as he looks, he has not actually demonstrated or shown us an ability to take a punch any other way than how everybody else you would expect to take a punch, right? I mean, he's not like got this masterful chin and it's tested constantly, like he is Nate Diaz, for example, and he just won't go down. He's Chris Lieben and he's going to walk through anything. He hasn't actually demonstrated that. He's very long. He's got height. He understands that the best defense is a good offense, meaning if I'm attacking you and having you cover and respond, I don't have to worry about anything because you're not throwing back at me. But when somebody does choose to throw back, he is a human being. So when you come into a situation like that, where it's very clear that Pereira is better, at least in our opinions, being better and winning a fight, being better and protecting yourself for every moment, these are very different things. What Khalil needs to win is that one shot. He's got that power. He's shown that and demonstrated it. The mental battle, right? He's not going to need to control and get off the bottom. He's not going to have to have worked every single day at scrambling and getting back to the top. He's not going to find himself in an upper position and he must lock it in and strangle and or stretch this guy out right here and now. It's not like that. Khalil has to land that one shot, and we know that he has it. And we do know about Pereira that his ability and or iron chin is not something we've actually seen. He appears to be really tough, but if somebody can get to him, which is hard to do, they can hurt him, stumble him, separate him from consciousness, the same as anyone else. So you don't always have a battle of who's better. I'm very confident telling you this, Pereira. I'm very confident in telling you if it went to the judges, where they fought 5 rounds or they fought 500 rounds, Pereira is going to win more of those rounds. He's going to be more of those spots. He's going to be more dominant in certain positions, but that's not the game that they're playing. And there's not a spot, man. When you got a grappler, it's not necessarily like that. Like, you start to take the time away, right? This grappler is going to be on the ground, whether he's top or bottom, but that time that he's on top or bottom and on the canvas, he's not standing up. He's not playing that game. He's not in that, well, anybody can catch anybody. He's not there. I don't think that you believe Pereira is going to go take Rountree down, or that he's even equipped with this skill, or that mythically he's even going to try. So now you've got 25 minutes, right? You've got the full allotted amount of time. Anywhere you have that expression, well, a guy can catch him, and you can do that as long as they're standing up and they're trading. These guys are going to stand and they are going to trade for however long this fight goes. Khalil can lose rounds. He can lose moments. He can lose scenarios. He can have his leg hurts and his nose is bleeding. He can have all of those things. He will still be in an opportunity to land that shot. That environment won't change. That environment of 2 guys on their feet, I'm throwing at you and you're throwing at me. He's going to have 25 minutes to do it. And I understand where it's more unlikely to happen than it is likely. I do understand that. But every upset, and not just in our sport, not just Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas, not just Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey. Every upset has a couple of commonalities. And the first, the number one thing, is the person who is upset is in a fight not only harder than they thought it was, but those viewing, those watching, they find themselves in a fight harder than the world knew it was going to be. And that is exactly where Pereira is out. Where Pereira is at. And that's why Kamara is taking Rountree. That's why I'm taking Rountree. You guys are going to DraftKings. You're saying you don't think that's going to happen, but you are going to be clenched up and on the edge of your feet for all 25 minutes. Because there is no ground game. There is nowhere to rest. There is no push him against the fence. There is no, oh, this is Dole, and wait for the referee to stand him up. That's not going to happen. Numbers matter. You like the numbers. DraftKings likes the numbers. Go into Pereira. Some numbers you don't like is winning percentage between each of these athletes in the last 3 years.